Hi, I'm Jadon, a product designer with SiteStacker, and today we're going to take a look at wrappers. A wrapper is a container used for styling your web pages. In other content management softwares, they can be called div blocks or content blocks. A wrapper can be used to create general padding, unique backgrounds, accordion drop-downs, and a slider for things like missionaries and projects. We're going to be working inside of the Site Planner component. We're going to start by dropping down the Content Explorer and Site Plan and locating the page that we want to publish our items to. Mine are located under Training, and we're going to publish to the wrappers page I've created. It is first important to know where to locate the wrappers. Underneath the drop-down of your site, there's a wrapper folder where you can locate all of your wrappers. You can see under Type, it classifies what kind of content it is. The basic wrapper is the most important wrapper. This will be used 90% of the time to add general padding and any kind of styling to your items. You never want to edit the basic wrapper itself. When it's located under the Content Explorer side, you want to stay away from editing this item because it is used globally across the site, so if you make a change to the item itself, it'll change everything globally. A custom background wrapper is the same content type, but it's a separate item that you can create by right-clicking on the wrapper folder, selecting Add Item, and uploading an image of your choice and titling it whatever you'd like. The title, name, alias, and really everything on the right side of the item is only for back-end purposes. It's not going to publish any of this on the front end of the site. An example of a custom wrapper that I've already created is this children background. If I hit Edit and open up the item, you can see I've uploaded an image. And so when I publish this, we can now put items inside of it such as text or another image on top of it. And really it's the same as a wrapper, except it's not a transparent background. So you'll have a unique background behind your items. We're going to walk through how to create general padding, such as what you're seeing here, a custom background with content on only half of the page using a half content block, accordion drop-down with information inside of it, and a slider wrapper that you can publish any content of your choice inside of. To begin adding general padding, we're going to grab the basic wrapper and drag it over to our wrappers page. The site plan assignment is going to show up. We have two sections, the position and the view. The position decides where this wrapper is going to lay on the page. You're really only going to use two of these classes, either the body position or the hero position. The key difference here is if you select body, you're going to have a regular header with a header bar at the top. The hero view is specific to a hero image that sits at the top. It will push the wrapper all the way to the top of the page above the rest of the content, and it will remove the header bar behind the menu items. Let's look at an example of this. Here you can see there is no header bar behind these menu items. These menu items are completely transparent and you get a full view of this video playing. On this page, you have a white header bar behind your menu items. These are the key differences. This is hero, this is body. In this case, we're going to publish the general padding in body position. The view is going to decide what kind of wrapper this is. An accordion is an accordion drop-down, just like it sounds, and same with a slider. The slider is going to create a module where basically you can put any static items or content inside of that wrapper, so then it becomes a slider. The basic is going to be the most commonly used and the one that you'll use most of the time. So in this case, we're going to use basic to create our general padding. In order to actually add styling and padding, we're going to go inside of the View Class drop-down here. Select the field, and a bunch of view classes will pop up. We will not be able to get through each one of these view classes today, but we do have a publishing guide that you can access in the description below. We're going to scroll down, and under padding, we're going to select top, bottom, and sides. Selecting these classes only decides the position of where this padding will be applied. We now need to select the amount of padding we want to add. Horizontal is going to apply to sides, while vertical is going to apply to top and bottom. This is really all preference, and as you work inside of Site Planner more and more, you'll start to learn how much padding you like to add. In this case, I'm going to select horizontal 6 for the sides and vertical 4 for the top and bottom. There's a label field that allows you to label specifically for back-end purposes. This keeps things more organized. In this case, I'm going to label this general padding. And we're all set to save and close. So our web page is not currently going to look any different because we still have to create our static item and drag it over and publish it inside of this general padding wrapper. I've already created the items for this video specifically, so I'm going to go inside of my static folder, inside of training, and we're going to grab the what is a wrapper static item and publish it inside of this wrapper. Going to select basic, set my image to the right, title H2, and I'm good to save and close. And now we should be good to go to this page and refresh. And there you go. Looks just like our example. Next, we're going to look at a custom background with a half wrapper inside of that. We're going to start by going back down to our wrapper folder, and we're going to create the custom background. In this case, I've already created it, but what you'll do is right-click on the wrapper, select Add Item, title your item, and add the image that you would like to create a background with. In this case, I'm going to use the children background I've already created, drag it over to the wrapper's page, and again, our assignment is going to pop up. We're going to select the same position, body, and the same view. Really, the only difference between what we last did and what we're doing now is that this one is a custom background with an image behind it. The last one was a transparent basic wrapper. For our view classes, we're going to select Disable Background Resize, which will keep the image from zooming in and resizing. We're then going to select our padding, top, bottom, sides, and let's do the same, horizontal 6 and vertical 4. We can go into our label field and label this custom background, and we should be good to save and close. The next step is to add our basic wrapper into that custom wrapper, and we're going to create that half view. So you can see we have text on only one half of the screen, and we're going to achieve that by using a basic wrapper. So select your basic wrapper and drag that inside of the custom background. And notice this looks a little different, this assignment here. Usually we have position and view, but in this case we only have view. And the reason is the position's already been decided by this custom background. So if we're dragging a basic wrapper inside of another wrapper that already decided the position, you don't need to decide the position for the second wrapper. I know it can be confusing, but it starts to make sense as you work in here more and more. I'm going to drag that basic wrapper back over, and we're going to select basic view. Open our view classes, and under column is where you can select half, 1/3, 2/3. Really, you can decide how many columns you want. In this case, we're using just a half. And then we're going to add padding within that. So we have padding around that half width column, but we need it inside of it because once we drag that item, you don't want it all pressed up against the wrapper. So I'm going to select top, bottom, and in this case, because it's only half, I'm actually going to just do padding left. I'm going to select horizontal 2.5 and vertical 2. We could then label this half and save and close. So now that we have our wrappers all set up here, got our custom background and our half wrapper inside of that, we're going to go grab that static item that we've already created here, and we're going to drag it in. And really the static item is a title field filled out with summary text and a button. So we're going to drag that inside of the half wrapper. It's important to keep in mind that that green plus sign will pop up showing that it's going to drop inside of there. So if I put it, over here, it's not going to drop in where I need it. So you just kind of want to wait for that green plus to show up to make sure it actually goes in the item. We're then going to select basic view and text color white, H4, and that should be good. Save and close. And let's refresh. Perfect. Looks just like our example. Might be some text sizing differences, but really we're focused on the wrapper layout here. Next, we're going to create an accordion dropdown like this one. To kind of explain what we're looking at here before we start, we have a basic wrapper that's creating this lighter gray background with padding around the accordion. And then we have another wrapper, and it's actually going to be a wrapper that we're going to create, and we're going to select the accordion view, which is going to create this more details dropdown. And then inside of that accordion, we have a static item that has text and image. And really you can publish any kind of content inside of your accordion dropdown. So we're going to start by creating that general light gray padding to put our accordion inside of it. So we're going to go down to our wrapper folder again, and we're going to grab a basic wrapper. I'm going to select body position, basic view. We're going to go down to our view class and select lighter gray. It's important to keep in mind that you don't have to use a custom background in order to have specific colors as your background. Underneath background, you'll have a selection of your colors set in your template, and then your general black, gray, light gray. We're then going to go down to padding, and we're going to select top, bottom, sides. Let's do horizontal 6, and vertical 2.5 should be good. We'll label this accordion padding, and save and close. Inside of this general wrapper that we just published, we're actually going to publish another basic wrapper. We're going to select basic, and we're going to apply this centered 1000, which is going to be under container width. And this is actually just going to bring the accordion in more so that it's not super long. It'll just restrict the width of the accordion. So we can just label this centered. And then inside of that is where we're going to put our actual accordion. I've created a new folder under wrapper called accordion, which is just where I put the accordion dropdowns. You can create a folder by right clicking and selecting add folder. In this case, I've already done it, and I've also already created the item. The way that you're going to create an accordion is by selecting add item, and your title field is actually going to show up on the front end this time. And that's because when you select the accordion view, it's going to change the way the content publishes. So it's still a wrapper content item, but you're selecting what kind of wrapper content item it is. In this case, you would put whatever you want that accordion to say. So if we look at on the front end here, it says more details. That's what this title field is. And then your image field, you're going to leave empty. You'll then save and close, but I'm not going to in this case since we already created this. I'm going to drag over my wrapper into the centered wrapper, and this is where you'll select that view that I was just talking about. So we've been using basic, but now we're going to select accordion. Let's label it accordion. And then our view classes allow for a little bit of styling when it comes to the accordion. So you can select the background color, which will really just fill in the accordion. And you can also select the style. So if you do simple, it's going to look like this. If you don't select anything, it'll look slightly different. And I can show you what the difference looks like there. Go ahead and select simple to start off. And for our title color, let's do black. And we'll do H4 title size. This is set in your template. So really, if you want to make a change to what each of these are set to, it'll have to be done in the template, or if you have the customized tool applied to your system, then you'll be able to use that. Save and close. Let's go ahead and refresh and just make sure that's showing up okay. Perfect, so it looks just like it, except our example has content in it and this doesn't. So really, this is pretty simple. You just throw in your content. We've already created it here, so I'm just going to drag it over. Select basic, and just going to publish it as is. We'll refresh, and there you go. Real quick to just show you what it looks like when you change styling on whether it's simple or not. Just take away that simple view class, save and refresh, and there you go. It's going to look like that. So if I were to apply a background color to this, say we do 1. I have no idea what color 1 is, but we'll just see. So it's a dark gray. It's just going to fill in the background there. And of course, if you want, so for example here, if you had a background, it presses up against the sides a little bit. So what you can do is grab a basic wrapper and drag it inside of that accordion. Select basic and let's center 900. And then you're going to drag that static item inside of that wrapper. So we have a bunch of nested wrappers. And what nesting is basically just putting wrappers inside of other wrappers inside of other wrappers in order to kind of layer. So you might be layering with different backgrounds, or you might be layering because you want to add a bunch of padding, but it's just making use of a bunch of wrappers. So let's refresh that. Drop it down, and there you go. It's no longer pressed up against the side. In the bottom it is, and so what you would do in that case is just add some bottom padding. But really, the wrappers all function the same regardless of how you're using it. So if you're adding padding inside of here, you're going to add it the same way that you added it up here. We're going to lastly take a look at how to add a slider wrapper like this one. We'll start by grabbing a basic wrapper to add our general padding for this section. Select body position and basic view. And we're just going to repeat usually what we've been doing, top, bottom, side, horizontal 6, and vertical 4. We're going to add a couple view classes that we actually haven't done, one being wrapper with equalized children height. So if we look at our example here, you'll notice that each of these missionary cards have the same height here. There's different amounts of text, which would usually make these cards appear different sizes, and it kind of looks a little funky. But once you apply this, it's going to equalize these cards so that everything looks even. So we'll go ahead and select that. And then we're also going to select centered 1000. And that's just going to bring this slider in a bit so that it's not all pressed up against the sides. Now that we have our basic wrapper all set up, it's time to drag in another basic wrapper. And this is going to be the actual slider itself. So with an accordion, you have to create a whole new wrapper item. But for a slider, you can actually just use the basic wrapper. You don't need to create a whole separate item. So we dragged over our basic wrapper, and now we're looking at the assignment, and we'll select slider here. I'm going to label this slider. And inside of the view class is where you're going to choose the settings for this slider. So it's always good to add some arrow padding. We'll do dark colored dots, which is really just the dots at the bottom that let you know which page of the slider you're on. Could do enable autoplay, featured slider, and show arrows. I recommend kind of playing around with these settings, and some of this can just be preference, but it gives you a couple different options on how to publish your slider. You can then save and close. And lastly, we just need to add in the content. So in this case, I'm going to publish the missionaries folder that I have in my system. Drag it over, and I'm going to choose summary. Choose lighter gray, and save and close. So what I just did was publish that inside of the slider there. Then refresh, and there we go. That is how you publish content in a slider. And really you can do the same thing with images or text, really any kind of content. The one thing that you'll probably have to change in the settings is just removing featured slider. So if I remove featured slider with missionaries, it's going to look like this, which is still useful, still can work for certain. It's all just preference of and how it like works with the design. But when it comes to images or static items, you do not want to use the featured slider view class because it will publish a little interesting. We just took a look at wrappers in SitePlanet. Wrappers have endless capabilities when it comes to styling and publishing your content. For more videos like this one, visit sitestacker.training.